All right. Well, Rick, I've told you so many times that nothing would ever come between us, but fortunately for us today, we have a special guest. He is the chapter chairman of our Nevada County chapter. This is John Hickman. John, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate the invite.
Definitely. I thought it was a good idea to maybe get your perspective. So let's just kind of start from the beginning. You know, where did this start? What was the process like? What's the cohesion like starting a chapter, which is just, the only way that that can start is to put an idea out there and see if there are like-minded people.
Right. The impetus for this began back in 2018. I moved to Nevada County in 2016. And when I moved there, I was able to shoot on my property and enjoy some recreational shooting, teach my 10-year-old grandson how to shoot and do so safely and in the privacy of my property. Well, in 2018, we had some folks who had a personal beef with their neighbor, and they went through this process of continually harassing her because she was shooting on her own property. That developed into what became a new ordinance for the county, and this was kind of slid through under the radar, not a whole lot of public comment, very little reference to what was actually contained in it, and it was the last act of an outgoing board member before he retired. And now it's part of county ordinance code, and it's extremely restrictive, and it really impinges on the rights of individuals in our county to recreational shoot on their own property, and it affects private property rights. But, to a further level, I got, with the COVID thing, I normally travel for work, so I was shut down, didn't have a whole lot to do. This has always been on my mind and had an interest in pursuing this. So in March of 2020, I decided to establish a new chapter for the CRPA. I've been a member for many years, and this was something that just felt like it was the right time for me to become active in defending our Second Amendment rights in California. We're continually under attack, and it's not just on the state level. We always see the federal cases and the state cases and things like that, but we don't always look at what's happening in our own neighborhood, our own cities, and our own counties. And this kind of just woke me up as something that I had to be part of to try to do my effort to regain some of those freedoms for the citizens of our county.
Right. I remember the first phone call that we had. I remember being really fired up afterward because you had a lot of ferocity behind you. That's always exciting for someone like me to see. And yeah, I think that there are definitely different reasons that anybody could have entering, a program like the CRPA chapter program. Yet we find ourselves moving toward the same thing all the same. So, what was it like getting a group of people together and bonding in a way to set your goals and push forward on something?
So it kind of started out tough because we're into COVID, so all of our meetings were on Zoom, and it was a little challenging. We've all dealt with these Zoom meetings, and they get to be really frustrating after a while. But the good thing is I found a couple of key people, and I think one of the things that I was doing some reading on establishing, grassroots efforts and things like that. And one of the things that's most important is not only to have a leader in that process, but key followers who are examples of how to be a contributing follower. And so Karen Kos is my vice chair, and then John Poplowski is our treasurer. And as we develop these relationships with more and more people and bring in more people from the community, the message and the mission just resonates. And that tends to reverberate out through multiple relationships, and we're bringing in people from all over the place now. We've got some folks from the Sheriff's Department involved. We've got some folks from a group in our community called the Nevada County Restoration Coalition. They're contributing and helping to promote our activities. Another independent group, the Nevada County Assembly, we gained 16 members in one night from a little membership event I did there. So it's just little bits. It takes just constant effort, but a little bit of energy and effort at a time talking to people on the street, explaining to them what you're doing and how you want to make in our case, we wanted to create a positive image of gun owners in our county. And we wanted to represent us as responsible citizens who are the ones to really be trusted and not necessarily these evil people who have these things that people are scared of. And to try to take the fear out of gun ownership and out of the aspects around firearms that has been really promulgated by the media and a lot of our politicians in this state.
John, when you, I remember too when we were first talking to you, as a person that started chapter, how have you changed from the point where you're going to be a volunteer and start a chapter to where you're at now?
You know, at first, the whole issue was a personal issue. And I was upset because, some things have been taken away from me, this ability to be able to pass on some firearm responsibility and education to my grandson. And then as I developed on it, it just kind of dawned on me at a certain point that I woke up that the rest of the community is feeling the same way. They may not know it. A lot of them weren't aware that there was a change in the shooting ordinances, but their day-to-day lives and their, the things that they're going to pass on to their kids were affected. Mm-hmm. And more so, they learned about these different changes, and they began to get upset about the changes. They began to realize, hey, wait a minute, I need to do something too. And I think I came at it, like I said, from a very selfish perspective, but now I'm kind of looking at it more and more from the freedoms and individual rights of the citizens rather than my own personal things. And I think that's kind of where it's elevated to me to get out of my own issues. And I probably won't be able to ever shoot on my property again, but maybe I can help some other people to regain those freedoms and regain those rights and to create a positive image for gun owners in our county.
Well, yeah, we have a lot of efforts that we push towards in outgoing messaging here from CRPA. One of those things is kind of along the lines of you need to get out and you need to work your personal networks. You need to get this message out here. And it seems like what you're telling me is that that's exactly what you're doing and it's working.
It is. And, I've had some business cards printed up. I go to the gun stores, I go to gun shows and different events in town, and I just start talking to some people. I travel a lot for work now, and so I'm sitting on a plane talking to somebody. I'm handing out my cards. I'm giving them information on the meetings. I'm getting them engaged with CRPA, whether it's in my chapter or their local chapter. So we get them connected up with other people who have, like purposes, and it's really been just an organic growth process.
One of the things that you brought up was you being there for your grandson and having that stripped away from you. And I think it's so important because Kevin and I put a lot of time into what we call the R3 program, which is recruiting, retaining, and reactivating people. And it's so good to see you guys trying to do that at the chapter level of making sure that this knowledge base of firearms ownership and freedom is being passed to that next generation. What would you say to the person out there who's like, yeah, that's important to me, but I don't know what that first step is?
Well, I think the first step is engage with your local community. First, reach out to CRPA. If you don't have a chapter in your county, reach out to CRPA. We can help you to develop your county. I've reached out to the other local chapters nearby too. I've met with a couple of the folks nearby, and we've been able to, kind of have some brainstorming sessions together on how to reach out like that. But the thing is, this is a legacy that we want to pass on. We don't want the firearms community to die with us. There's a lot of old guys in this industry. There's a lot of people who have grown up with it. We kind of take it for granted. But the young people today, they're just not exposed to it. So things that we're doing right now is we're working with Friends of the NRA, we're working with 4-H, we're working with local organizations to try to do whatever we can to encourage, firearm ownership, safe handling, all kinds of different things. Our Nevada County Sportsman's Club is another local organization. They have a shooting range in Nevada County. CRPA has been involved with helping to defend them against some attacks that they've been under lately too. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different things that we have to do together, but if we don't prepare that next generation for it, if we don't take away the stigma and the mystery and the fear of firearm ownership, then they can't. They're not going to pick that up. They're not. There's got to be that inspiration that happens with kids. And one of the things I did with my grandson, I took away the fear and the mystery by saying, you know what? One of the things I like to do more than anything else is go out target shooting. You want to go shooting anytime, any gun I got, let's go. You just name it and we'll go. We'll have a great time. So that's something that I didn't have as a kid. My parents were terrified of firearms. I should say my mom was. My dad had a couple, and we borrowed those and went out shooting unsupervised. Which, see, I don't want to have that ever happen to somebody else. Luckily, we were safe; nobody got hurt. But the thing is, if you don't instill that safety, that discipline, and the respect for firearms, you gain this whole mystery comes into play, and then you can't pass that legacy on. If we develop a standard for education and inclusion and respect for firearms and ownership and exercising your Second Amendment rights, that can be passed on to those next generations. It's really our duty. It's our charge. It's incumbent upon us to educate those people and bring them to that next stage. And it's groups like CRPA which provide the foundation for that to be able to bring those educational programs to that local level.
Well, I mean, first of all, thank you for the plug. That was not pre-planned, but yeah, that is definitely something that we have been working on lately when it comes to strategizing with other organizations in general. R3 is a huge deal, and that's not just recruiting. That is retaining and reactivating so that legacy can be passed on. I guess I will finish with this. So first of all, I want to say thank you very much for coming down here to see us and doing this with us. If you wanted to get a message out to anybody in your area, what would you say?
Come out, join CRPA, join us at the Nevada County Gun Owners. We meet the third Thursday of every month at Robinson Enterprises in Nevada City. If you need more information, reach out to crpa.org. We can get you connected up. Please participate. We need every person because every person has a voice. And when we get together and express that, our elected officials actually do listen.